Hi everyone, Anthony Fantano here, the internet's busiest music nerd, and it's time for a review of the new Thundercat album, Apocalypse. Thundercat is a virtuoso bass player and a songwriter from LA who went from Suicidal Tendencies band member to flagship artist on the BRAINFEEDER Records label in the matter of a few years through some really nice contributions to the music of Flying Lotus and a pretty well-received debut full-length LP, The Golden Age of Apocalypse. An album that did feature production from Flying Lotus on it and brought together his love of wonky and just spacey experimental electronics and hip-hop together with Thundercat's love of new jazz, jazz fusion, jazz funk. Some of the songs were kind of brief and the vocals were not the best, but the album still had an incredible aura about it and was one of my favorite LPs the year it got dropped, mostly because of the very flashy bass lines and melody writing, the very progressive kind of futuristic production. However, in my opinion, I don't feel that Apocalypse brings a lot of what made the Golden Age of Apocalypse so charming to begin with. Even though Thundercat does take a lot of influence from jazz and jazz fusion, this record is still pretty overwhelmingly electronic, and that's fine. I mean, his last record was electronic as well. But that really progressive, futuristic, forward-thinking vibe of the sounds that are going into Thundercat's music seems to have kind of disappeared, and has left some of the more upbeat songs on this album feeling like mere demos of tracks that would have definitely come out in the era of music that Thundercat pulls from influentially. They just feel as if I'm hearing sequence drums behind some very vocal and bass and synth mixing, and really what these songs are awaiting is a real studio recording with a full live band. Songs like Heartbeats and Setbacks, as well as the track Oh Shit It's X. There are quite a few passable songs, you know, verse, chorus, verse type songs on this record, and there are other tracks on here that don't really feel like songs at all, songs that are more motif-like. Tracks that to me sound unengaging and kind of uninspired in just about every way that you could look at them, like the very dark bass line and the hissing sounds on the track, the Life Aquatic, a track that sets a pretty ominous tone and really does nothing with it for a very repetitive 2 minutes. I feel the same thing about the track 7. And then there are the vocals, which of course have never really been Thundercat's strongest point on his records, but he's easily overcome that issue with very forward-thinking beats and sounds and soundcraft. His great playing and his melodies, which a lot of the time are very angular, memorable, kind of sweet, jazzy, but on a lot of tracks here his pitch is just barely there, or it's hanging on to the note he's singing by a thread. On top of it, his vocals on many tracks here are touched with this reverb effect that is very, very thinning, making his voice feel even more weak than it is when he reaches up into his falsetto. Not only that, but Thundercat's vocal delivery on these tracks is pretty flatlined as well. To me, it feels like I'm listening to a really nervous performer at a vocal recital. There are definitely flashes of interesting moments on this record for me. Songs like Special Stage, which has a very sweet, pretty, and contortionist melody on it that just does backflips all over the track, even though it is very slow and kind of emotive, though the lyrics are a little corny. Don't you know you rock my world? The synth melodies that come through right at the beginning on the track Oh Shit It's X, I mean, they're really fun, which is something this album is incredibly lacking in, especially since a lot of the grooves that the beats on this record are supposed to be driving are so corpse-like. Aside from Oh Shit It's X, many of the songs on here are just stiff as hell. The track Bleh actually felt like it had live drumming in the mix. The grooves that the drum were playing were very hard. There was some improv there against the bass. It felt like I was hearing some live, in-the-moment action on this particular track, which excited me in a sense because I've caught Thundercat live before, and him and his band that he performs with are amazing. But the improvisations toward the end of the track weren't really all that memorable, though they were really chaotic and kind of noisy. And the recording on the drums on this track just sounds like crap. I mean, it's just a lot of noise, and I can't really make out a lot of the details and just a lot of the finesse that was going into the drumming on this song because it's just really so rough around the edges and thrown together. So with the weak songs on this album, the boring melodies, the pretty cringe-worthy vocal performances and the loss of just flavor and style and direction on this album, I was incredibly disappointed with this release. I think the only song on this LP that I liked was the 6-minute closer. It was the most ambitious part of this LP, and in my opinion, the only moment that still had that futuristic flair to it that Thundercat so fantastically brought to his debut. The song starts off with some really sweet, epic strings, great piano, the instrumentation builds, and when Thundercat starts singing, he sort of forgoes the falsetto and is singing very nicely on this track and is delivering some beautifully commemorative lyrics for a late friend. Easily, this track was the most inspired moment on the album for me. Everything else was either something I didn't like at all, or I was just sort of on the fence with and just really not feeling anything from, whether it be something positive or negative. Unfortunately, I mean, I'm feeling a decent to strong 3 on this record. If you've given it a listen, what did you think of it? Did you love it? Did you hate it? Why? What do you think I should review next? And that's it. This review is my opinion. If you don't like it, here's a straw. I want to give a shout out to John, Tucker, Tony, Alana, and Rick. Only the strong subscribe. All mistakes were intentional. The needle drop. Thundercat. Apocalypse. Forever.